What's up, guys? Welcome back to DYAD in the Force. So, Luminate has released its annual 2024 streaming report. And there's a lot of great numbers in this PDF. I'll link it in the description below so you can view it.
Great information for anyone who's like media obsessed, geek culture obsessed like we are.
But we're here to talk about The Acolyte. You've read the title of this video. The Acolyte was the second most viewed show on Disney Plus. And the thing that we're going to argue today, or at least contend, is a lot of people watch this show. And this is what this is an argument we get into a lot with people who need this show to be a failure. The worst show in Star Wars decision history because they hated it. Now, obviously, this show has a dedicated contingent of fan out there. Hashtag renew the Acolyte with their New York Times Square billboards. When people talk about why it was canceled, we can talk about a lot of different things as to whether it was fiscally, reasonable, or did the budget balloon. Those are all very, very valid concepts to kind of broach. But for all intents and purposes, it was not the viewership.
Straight up, right? It shows that you mentioned it was the second most viewed thing this year, making it the most viewed thing that came out this year, because number one is Percy Jackson the Olympians, and that technically came out in 2023. So that's why you'll see that headline. You'll see a lot of people discussing that. But importantly, the viewership was there. The show was in the top 10 for the first 3 episodes, and then it fell out, and then it returned to top 10 at episode 5 for the remainder of the season. Now, as far as it not getting a second season, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Wasn't canceled. It was only greenlit for 1 season. There's only 1 season in the books, right? If you go to dinner, you order your food, you can't be mad that they didn't bring you dessert if you didn't order dessert. Number 2 is that I already knew we weren't getting the second season because Bob Iger said so. Literally, a year before the show came out, Bob Iger returned to his role as CEO of Disney, and he said, "Hey, we're doing too much stuff, too many shows and streaming, and we are going to scale that back." That's what he said. So I assume, essentially the Acolyte had to earn a second season, and after everything they considered, they decided it hadn't. But stop acting like no one watched it. It's wrong and weird.
And another thing that we can glean from this chart, as well as The Acolyte being the most viewed show in 2024, is that you have to let these shows live. You have to let them breathe. Choco will say all the time that season 1 of the Clone Wars was rather slow and wasn't very hype.
It was bad.
You definitely need to let these shows live on the platform to gain traction. Like, not everyone like us is going to watch it on the drop. They're not going to watch it all throughout on the first day of the episode's release. There needs to be some time for it to gain traction and for people to just find the time outside of their busy schedules to watch it. It just goes to show that when you account for total viewership, it is the most interesting show in 2024 for Disney Plus.
Stop. If you don't like something, that's okay, but move on. There's a weird obsession with trying to find a reason and then hammer that into people. They were saying no one watched this. This had more viewership. I liked these other projects better, but you don't ever hear the inverse, right? Yeah. When The Penguin was coming out, it had lower viewership than all of these other things. It was so well written, and we loved it, and we still talk about it. And there's no mention of the low viewership numbers. Why do people not care? And they only it's weird.
It's not financially pertinent to their discussion. It's not lucrative.
No, exactly. They don't. The content creators who are trying to rage bait and use outrage, they don't make money by hating on The Penguin, which fantastic show, very low viewership.
The second and last thing we can glean from this chart is Star Wars has a lot of power in Disney Plus. just, you know, some of these have been released 2019, 23, Mandalorian, Ahsoka. These are its top 10 viewed shows. And so even when we're talking about Star Wars is Star Wars dead or is Star Wars alive? Star Wars, with a few mentions from Marvel and Percy, Agatha, Echo, X-Men, Star Wars is dominating their most viewed shows. So if we're talking about profitability or intellectual property that is responsible for retention and new viewership, Star Wars being 70% of this or 60% of this list tells a really, really positive story.
Yeah, I mean, although there were other things I enjoyed on the list more, I will say that the bones of the Acolyte were probably the best that we've seen from Star Wars in a very long time.
Here's to, I guess, The Stranger or a Darth Plagueis, something to kind of continue the narrative in some way, shape, or form. But that's it. On to the next one. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for more DYAD in the Force videos. Consider joining the DYAD Squadron if you want to support us that way. But always subscribe because that's free. But on to the next one.
Peace.